All right, today on the show, we have Shayne Hillier and Matt Cramer, who are co-founders of the Real Estate Marketing and Conversion Academy, which offers an exclusive course for realtors and marketers that teaches you how to acquire high-ticket clients in under 90 days. Hillier and Cramer have generated over 280 million in combined and closed real estate volume. Again, 280 million. They are the founders of the fastest growing marketing group on Facebook. Now, to learn more about their course, please visit go.remcmgroup.com. Once again, go.remcmgroup.com. Shayne and Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be here.
And just for our audience so that they can identify voice to name, Shayne, can you please say hello?
How's it going, everybody? I'm Shayne Hillier, and happy to be here. And
Matt?
How's it going, everybody? I'm Matt Cramer, and I'm glad to be here.
Well, you guys sound almost identical, so this is going to be... But Shayne is actually from Toronto, so there's a slight Canadian accent there, but it's very subtle. But anyway, we're glad to have both of you. You guys probably think a lot of the same thoughts as well, because you are partners in this Real Estate Academy. And this is really a unique episode for us. We've done, I think, about 250 episodes now and almost exclusively featured, top producing agents. What we don't often feature is some of the technology that sort of supports them, or the framework to which they go out and, in your case, acquire new clients. And the number one question we get from our listeners and viewers on the show is, how can I generate more business on Facebook and other social media platforms? And we even have Facebook comes on once a month to talk about that. But we also love to hear, third-party people like yourselves who specifically are teaching realtors how to increase their social media presence and their ad spend for maximum conversion. And, right now, I know Facebook traffic has, along with Zillow and a lot of the other websites that cater to, buyers and sellers, have exploded in traffic simply because of the pandemic has forced more of us to be online more often. So right now there's such a huge opportunity to find buyers and sellers who are raising their hand wanting to speak to a broker. But I would like to hear, what you guys, what your thoughts are. First, I'd love to hear about why you created the Academy.
Absolutely. Well, I can definitely get started with that. So the Academy, I've been doing marketing for some time. My wife's actually a licensed real estate agent, so that's kind of where I started. We were, doing some marketing for her business, and just, dabbling in Facebook ads and trying to get her some leads and some business. And then eventually started working with the brokerage that she was at, and that grew to a regional or like an entire region where we were helping some of the brokerages. And I guess I just, I stumbled across an opportunity where, they were teaching you how to, build digital products and just, teach what you know. And so we actually started a program a long time ago, which was something similar to what we're doing now, but it was mostly about, teaching what I knew about the marketing on Facebook and lead generation and so on. And then eventually I met Matt through another Facebook group, and I actually hired Matt to coach on our ISA teams. So we actually built an ISA team. One of the big challenges we ran into is that real estate agents were having a hard time following up with their leads, not properly qualifying them. So we built a small ISA team to do that for them. Our challenge was we had no idea what we were doing. So being that Matt came from a real estate background, I believe he managed a team of over 35 ISAs. He was doing lead generation. It just made sense to bring him in on the team, coach our ISAs. He rebuilt all our scripts. He helped our ISAs. We went from a 10% conversion to a 40% conversion to appointment. And
wow.
then from that, we just, it just kind of took off. We started, talking more. We started producing more content together. We started producing more scripts and helping more real estate agents. And then eventually we grew that into what is now known as the Real Estate Marketing Conversion Academy.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And for everyone listening who does not know what an ISA is, essentially, this is somebody who is working those internet leads for you, trying to schedule appointments on your behalf. A lot of times, agents who are participating in paid advertising, who are getting, buyers and sellers who raise their hand, don't have time to always immediately follow up with these leads. So they either hire an outside service, or they, have an assistant that makes these dials and just pounds the phone until that person's on the calendar with an appointment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about the Academy. Again, then we get so many people that say, hey, I'm posting a lot on Facebook. I'm not getting a lot of organic people who are replying or wanting my business. And, agents, I think, also struggle just with content, with, only posting like just listed, just sold. And I know we could talk all about content creation, but what we don't talk about much on the show is really paid advertising, and how important it is, and how easy it can be to find those buyers and sellers. So just tell us a little bit more about what the Academy's the problems they're trying to solve for, and what you guys offer.
Yeah, Matt, go ahead. Why don't you describe everything that's inside of the Academy?
Yeah, so the Academy is, it's got a lot of stuff, right? But to start with, it helps you get started with Facebook ads for real estate specifically. So there's a lot of, courses out there. Even Facebook's got their own course, right? Where they're teaching you how to run ads, how to set up a lead generation ad, different things like that. But they're not teaching you how to do it for real estate. So basically, we're teaching people how to set up the ads and run the ads for real estate. And then once they start getting those running, how to take a look at them, find out if they're performing well, what to change if they're not performing well. Once you get leads, what to do with those, where do they go once they get into Facebook as a lead, or into your landing page software as a lead. So getting those into your CRM or wherever it is that you're trying to put them. Follow-up plans, email plans, different things like that, so that you can start to convert the actual leads into, a conversation, and hopefully from there, an appointment. So we basically go beyond just, how to generate the lead. And we try to focus also on how to convert the lead, because I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. We'll hear people all the time like, oh, I'm getting, 60-cent leads, $1.20 leads, different things like that. And it's like, awesome. Well, how many deals are you closing? I don't know. Nothing yet.
Right. It's such an important point with this idea of conversion, because here's how we know that it's actually not that difficult to generate leads using Facebook ads. Because if you're, and for all of our listeners and viewers right now, if you're like me, you're getting these spam emails almost daily from these marketing companies. Typically it's some sort of generic Gmail account going, hey, I can get 15 to 30 buyers a week for you, or a month for you. If you're interested, please respond. Now, if you're getting those emails along with probably every other realtor in Canada and also the United States, that's because it isn't that difficult to generate the lead. The hard part, of course, is the conversion. There's such a ripe opportunity. And these guys have kind of cracked the code. I mean, we have Zillow on our show once a month as well. And they talk about that if you're converting, and these are Zillow leads, if you're converting 5% to 7%, you're one of their superstar lead converters. Now you guys are saying, hey, we can, once we get that person on the phone, we can actually possibly get them, up to a 40% close rate. That is an insane close ratio. And again, I mean, it really is a kind of a no-brainer. So can you talk a little bit more about, where should we start? Should we start with lead generation and using Facebook ads? Because I suspect most of our listeners and audience has never used a paid ad. Maybe they'll promote a post if they want to sort of, do a just listed or just sold, but they're not specifically running Facebook ads.
Well, real quick, I'd like to clarify, just so we don't have our inboxes blown up on this 40% conversion rate, right? 40% was to appointments, right? You still have to get the people to show up. You still have to convert the appointments, all that other, there's a lot of other pieces beyond just getting them an appointment booked. So,
but getting the appointment is everything. And if we can get them to 40%, with just appointment bookings, that's an incredible number. Really incredible. But yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead. So I apologize for the inflating your numbers and making it too good to be true. But still, these guys have really mastered the art of taking that person from raised hand, which again, not that difficult to find, but actually getting them to the appointment.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, it's different steps along the funnel, right? So the first thing is, can we generate the lead at the right price?
Yeah.
Once we have the leads generated, then we have to work on our contact rate. How quick are we reaching out to them? How many times are we reaching out to them? How many different ways are we reaching out to them? See, a lot of agents aren't even reaching out on Facebook, which is free. You can literally type the person's name in and go look at their Facebook and reach out to them. That's how they reached out to you. So why not do that? Yeah. So we got to get that contact rate up, right? A lot of people, when they're first getting started, they have like a 30% connect rate. And it's because they're calling the leads when they have time, 2-3 days later, things like that. You want to have an instant response. And that's, if you don't have the ability to do that yourself, then you want to make sure that you are working with some sort of an ISA company or team or one of those marketing agencies like you talked about. I mean, they'll handle it for you usually and get you set up with an ISA team as well. But basically the point is, you want somebody reaching out to those leads right away, multiple times. Once you can get your your connection rate to a good place, then it becomes about that conversion rate to an appointment and having a follow-up plan, because a lot of people aren't going to book that appointment on the first call. And so, I mean, there's just so many stages as you go along that you're trying to keep all the balls in the air, and the less you drop, the more you convert, if that makes sense.
100%. I worked prior to getting involved in this business. I was in a market. I'm basically a marketer, and I worked for an IT company prior to this in the healthcare space, and we generated through paid and also organic traffic, thousands of health insurance leads, people who needed to purchase health insurance. And we averaged about 15,000 leads a day. And so we had all this data from and we sold those leads to insurance agents who wanted to talk to. Yeah. And so we had all this data, and we were able to track over several years, like how quickly through the CRM that we offered, how quickly were people actually getting in touch with, well, first of all, how long does it take the average person to buy a health insurance plan? What's the really like start to close date for that? Like how quickly do they make a decision? And then how often is that agent following up? And so again, this isn't real estate related, but what we found was that the average person, when they raised their hand saying, I need to buy a health insurance plan, it took them about 9 days to actually purchase the plan. But most of the agents who we sold the leads to would give up after day 3 on kind of contact that person. So it was, if for those that just were able to consistently reach out to that prospect over a 9-day period, had tremendous success. Most agents were either too busy or didn't have a disciplined practice in place to continue to call that person until they reach them. So that is sort of step number 1, is really either hiring somebody to keep continuing to reach out to that prospect, or setting aside a certain amount of time every single day. But how important is speed to lead? Like the lead comes in, how quickly, and of course instantly is always the answer, but how quickly do you guys feel it's important to actually reach out to that consumer?
Well, I can answer that. I've actually got some data on this, so which was actually really interesting. This was just a test that we ended up doing internally with our own ISA team, and actually was based on a conversation with Matt about speed to lead and trying to see if we could increase our conversion rates. Now, one of the things that we noticed is that, so when we were first getting into this, we were generating leads. And we were calling leads within 15 minutes to, I would say, within an hour or so, as we were getting the leads coming in. And part of that was just because, we were getting a lot of leads coming in. We just, sometimes your conversations are 15, 20 minutes and trying to get to the next one. It just takes time, right?
Of course.
So what we did is we ended up switching up our process a little bit. And we went to from a 20-minute or like average, maybe 25-minute to below 5-minute contact, or not contact rate, but reaching out to people, right? So under 5 minutes. And what we notice is an increase of about 25 to 30% contact rate. Wow. And so that's where we saw the big change was the contact rates. We were able to increase those if we were reaching out to our leads a lot quicker. And what that meant was that it actually decreased our effort, because now instead of having to reach out, 5, 6, 7 times to somebody, we're calling them immediately. We're reaching 65% of our leads within that first 5 minutes. So we don't have to follow up with them again. Well, we do, but we put them into our longer follow-up process as opposed to our short-term, which at the time was, I believe was 13 phone calls we were making. So the point is that, there is nobody really has any data specifically around the really, because we've been looking for this data, and we challenge people all the time to show us the data, whether or not calling your leads within, a minute to 2 minutes actually increases the conversion rate. So the conversion to an actual transaction, there is no data out there. Nobody's keeping track of that well enough. But what we do tell our clients is that it increases your contact rates. And sometimes by 20%, 30%, 40%, and that's huge, right? If you're, especially if you're generating, say 100 leads a month and you're connecting with 65% of your leads, that means you've talked to 65 people.
Yeah, it's a huge number. And so, and I think, if I'm listening right now to the episode, I might think, well, I come from the Brian Buffini School of Business or School of Real Estate, which says, hey, we want to all work by referral. We shouldn't have to promote to strangers. We should be working sphere of influence. And of course, the answer is yes. Of course, you should work your sphere of influence and continue to build your network. But this is an alternative stream of leads that these guys have really crafted the process, right? It's not so hard to put up a Facebook ad and to generate leads, but then to convert that stranger into an actual scheduled appointment is a bit of a skill. It's easy when your best friend wants to, buy a home and they're going to choose you because they're your best friend. But for people who do not know you, who are responding to a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad, let's say, they do have to be, there's a psychological process of priming that person and putting them through a step to gain confidence, trust, and that takes effort, and it really takes a particular skill set, and that's what you guys teach.
Yeah, and I mean, what I find is that it's very similar to the people that deal with expireds, right? People that can work really well with expireds can do really well with online lead generation. Because imagine instead of having 2 expireds every morning, and that's all you get to call right now in this market, like you've got 20 new leads every morning. It's a completely different game, and you're getting in front of them before other people get in front of them.
Yeah, and expireds are really difficult because you're going to get a lot of hangups and, hey, screw you. I used an agent and they didn't do a good job for me. For sale by owners, have can be a very similar sort of response of, I don't want to work with an agent. That's why I'm not doing it myself. So, but it's a great opportunity to learn how to handle difficult objections. What we're talking about here is actually people who are raising their hands saying, hey, I do want to talk. I have a real estate need. And they're going to talk to somebody. Obviously, it might as well be you. Can we talk a little bit about that conversion? So, this is a stranger essentially, right, who raises their hand. Do you guys have any tips or suggestions for our audience when they're in that situation, whether it's an online lead or could just be, a phone call comes into their brokerage office, someone who assigns them this lead. But again, when it's a stranger, what have you guys found that is really helpful to convert that stranger into somebody who says, I want to work with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's getting them on the phone, right? Let's say you get them on the call. You want to build rapport immediately. So I really lean into mirroring and matching when you get them on the phone. If they're fast, you're fast. If they're slow, you're slow. I mean, you're trying to mirror and match that pace and also the tonality. So that's something you can do right from the first hello, right? Because they say hello as in, hello. Or if they say, hey, right. What you're dealing with, and you start there. From there, it goes into just the script, right? Is helping them out. Are you going to try and go straight for an appointment? No, you have to see what is it they're looking for? How can you help that person? One of the things I always say is leads are people first, not people to.
Right.
So a lot of times everybody looks at the leads. It's name, email, and phone number. It's probably just crap, right? It's just crap because it's just a lead. It's just a lead. You don't have anything yet. Well, that's a person. They have problems. They have issues. They have desires. They have wants and needs and everything else. And you have to start to get to know them on that call. What is it they're calling in for? What is it they reached out for? Did they just want to look at the pictures? Perfect. That's fine. Do you want to look at some pictures of some other ones, right? You meet them where they're at, and you don't treat them like, you don't treat them poorly is basically what I'm saying. But there's a lot of agents that they'll jump on and they're like, are you ready to buy a house? No. Okay. Well, I don't know what I can do for you. And that's not what they'll say, but that's what they're saying. If you know what I mean.
That's the message. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the message.
Yeah, and I've always thought, real estate agents really probably it would better serve them to call themselves consultants, because what a consultant does, in the corporate world, of course, is they go walk into a business who might need their service and say, here are the problems we're facing. Can you assist us with this? And the consultant says, okay, I'm going to do some discovery. I'm going to figure out exactly what the pain points are. And then I'm going to come back to you with a solution. Again, that doesn't happen instantly, but a lot of real estate agents, and other sales professions as well, go right for the sale. I recruit realtors all day, and I used to immediately go into, here's all the cool stuff our firm offers, instead of, I feel so silly not doing this for years. But I say, hey, what are you looking for? Like, what's important to you? And again, these are questions that are not specific to recruiting realtors, but, if you're asking somebody, you need to have an intake process. I went to the dermatologist the other day. They had an intake process. They asked me a million questions before the doctor came in, and not too many questions, but they were wanting to get to know me. And that made me feel like, wow, they really care enough to actually give me an appropriate, diagnosis or prescription for my particular situation, which of course is the same thing that real estate agents do.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
Yeah, I was going to add to that too. The other thing, in terms of increasing your conversions, there's a number of different things that, I think that really help out. And I just, I'm thinking back to some of the customers that I've worked with and the ones that have done really well. We've had clients convert anywhere between 5%. I've had one client convert up to 14% of their leads generated from Facebook, which is unheard of.
Wow.
And what's really unique about some of these agents is the way they follow up and how committed they are to the follow-ups. So one of the agents that I worked with, would make a phone call. If that person didn't answer, they'd then text them. Yeah. And then they'd immediately email them, and then they go on Facebook and friend request them. And the other thing that they were doing is really leveraging social media. So their personal profiles were set up. So anybody visiting their personal profiles would actually, they know they're a real estate agent, right? And then there's some videos on there, and they're really leveraging the whole video marketing thing. And so that really allows your leads to, to connect with you, right? Just in a different way without actually having to talk to them. A lot of times too, one of the things that we typically do is, you're doing a little bit of lead generation, but we're also tying a little bit of retargeting in there. And typically we're doing retargeting with video, so that when you are reaching out to somebody, that person has seen you maybe once, maybe twice on video, right? So they've connected with you or built a little bit of rapport with you even before you've picked up the phone, or before you've maybe called them the third, fourth, or fifth time.
Yeah, retargeting with video is boy, that's such a great idea. And just to define what retargeting is, Shayne, do you mind letting our audience know, when you say retargeting, what that entails?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when you generate a lead, what ends up happening is that Facebook tags that lead, right? So they're able to collect that information. And what retargeting does is allows you to send ads or create an ad to specifically target those same people. So it's very similar to, if you go to Amazon, you start looking at products, and then you go back to Facebook and you see all those products. Well, it's the exact same thing, right? So you're essentially putting more ads in front of the same people that reached out to you the first time. And typically we do this specifically with real estate agents. We're doing this with video because we want those leads to build rapport with the real estate agents.
And you can also put somebody through a sales funnel at that point, because they're being retargeted. You're able to give them new content, over time, based on their previous behavior. And in your case, mentioning, having video, so the person gets to see the agent talking about what they offer or whatever the content is. And you're right, over time, they start to feel like they know that person a little bit better because they've now seen and heard them. And you're able to push very specific content to that consumer based on their previous, buying or selling behavior or just browsing behavior.
Exactly. Like I would always suggest any opportunity you have to create video and get that person in front of video, then do it. You know, things like, I mean, there are apps out there like BombBomb that allow you to do that. So if you're following up with text messages, maybe you're following up with videos instead. You can jump on Facebook, figure out, like a lot of the CRMs now will capture the profiles, right? So the social profiles. So then you can jump on Facebook and maybe send them a video message over, or if you don't want to do video, even just a voice message, because now they're connecting with your voice, right? So you could do that over Messenger. I mean, there's so many different ways of doing this. One of the little things that we do is specifically with when we're doing ads for homes lists. So I'm sure everybody's familiar, like, you know, hey, here's a list of homes under a certain medium price point, you know, come and get it, right? And then they fill in their information. And then, so if we're using, you know, Facebook and we're using the built-in forms, there's a page, the thank you page allows you to add a link in there. So what we do usually is we add a link that goes to a landing page that has a video of the real estate agent and then a link back to the IDX website. So again, just every opportunity we have to put a video in front of these leads is typically what we try and do, or at least try and suggest.
Yeah, video content is so important. And also a great opportunity for everyone listening, even if you're not doing paid social advertising, you should be doing as much video as possible, just as regular organic content inside of your pages and your profile posts, because this is where people begin to feel like they know you, they want to watch you, they want to see what you how you speak, how you interact, what value you provide, especially if you're offering advice or just, you know, education about home buying and selling processes. You know, so many people, for example, go, I don't know what earnest money is. And they go to Facebook or YouTube and they type in what is earnest money and they watch a video. I bet more people do that these days than just go on Google and look for an article about earnest money. I'll bet it's more people are actually probably going specifically for things like that to YouTube or Facebook and doing that search. And I see agents starting to do that more and more, which I think is so smart to really establish yourself as the authority to, you know, the people that follow you.
100%.
Yeah, I would I'd love to hear about some don'ts. We've talked about some do's. Do you guys have any suggestions for, obviously we talked about speed to lead, meaning when a lead comes across your desk, you know, digitally or even, you know, of course, literally as well. If someone walks in the door, you're going to immediately work with them. You're not going to send them away and say, you know what, I'll call you in an hour, unless of course that's the only option. You're going to talk to them there. So treat those digital leads the same way. But is there any don'ts other than don't wait several hours to call, you know, the lead back? Any suggestions of what you see agents doing that gets in their way of actually converting that lead?
In the conversion process?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, I got a whole lot. So no.
Let's hear it.
So yeah, I mean, there's a few little, you know, there's a few things, right? I mean, obviously don't get, if you're going to go to the paid route, you have to make sure you have a proper system in place, right? I mean, you know, I was just working with a client. We just set up some ads a couple of days ago with a client, and you know, we're always looking at that sort of, you know, $3 to $5 range for a lead. In 2 days, we've generated somewhere around 36 leads. We're going to be on pace to do 360 leads on a $300 ad spend budget per month. So my point with that is, which is crazy, right? But it just happens that he had the right listing and it worked well inside of his market, and the market's getting a little bit stronger where they are. Anyways, my point is that, you know, we made sure that he had the system to intake all those leads. He's got a built-in dialer. He's got built-in text messaging. He's got an email drip, you know, text message drips and so on. We made sure that all of that was built out for them, right? So that's one of the, like, you really want to make sure you've got a good system that's dialed in, or at least a good process for the follow-ups, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't want to go into paid. You're going to waste a bunch of money if you just don't have that right system in place. So that'd be one. The other thing too is, if you're going to go down the route of doing paid ads, it's something you want to commit to, because what ends up happening is that, you know, a lot of these leads are top of funnel, right? Meaning that, you know, they're 3, 6 months, some of them are 12 months out, right? You're not going to see, I mean, you might get lucky, and we've worked with plenty of agents that have gotten really lucky. In fact, my first client within the first 2 weeks got an $850,000 cash buyer out of state. And it just, but that's luck, right? That doesn't happen all the time. So what we tell real estate agents that we work with is, you know, we're really trying to set the right expectations. And so that when you're going into this, you're committing to 6 months to 12 months worth of lead generation. So if your budget is $500 a month for paid ads, then you want to take $500, multiply that by 6 or 12, and that becomes your marketing budget, right? Because otherwise, if you jump into this, a lot of times what ends up happening is that your leads aren't going to convert right away. So what we see a lot of agents doing is like, okay, well, I tried to, I built an ad, I generated some leads, I wasn't able to reach any of the leads. This is junk. I'm shutting it all down. Facebook never works, right? And like Facebook works, we have proof. We see agents converting leads all the time. The problem is that you need to improve on your process. Maybe your follow-up process is not dialed in. Maybe it's the automations that aren't dialed in. Maybe it's your ad and your leads are too expensive, right? So that takes time to improve and work on, and plus the leads take 3 to 6, sometimes 12 months to convert. So if you jump in, commit, and stick with it, it's like anything else, right? Like any other type of marketing. If you don't commit to it and do it for over a long period of time, you're not going to see an ROI.
Yeah, and that ROI is obviously the end goal, and having all those systems in place to realize that this consumer that raised their hand, unless you get the cash buyer 2 weeks out at 850,000, which is really the exception, of course, that proves the rule, that most people, of course, don't do that, because we're talking about how unique that was. You need to have a really specific series of behaviors that are already established, because you're not going to remember 7 months later to make sure that email drip campaign, the 7th email that they're going to receive, you want that all to be built instantly, automatically, so that all of those texts, those emails, and also the phone calls are all scheduled, so that exactly how many times it takes the emotion out of the entire process, and all you're doing is following process, right? You're just basically following the system and making tweaks along the way, but just realizing this, like Shayne, you just said, this is a 12 month commitment, and you're not looking for results in the first 2 weeks. What you're looking for is, can I effectively work this process, and can I get other people to help work that process for me, because I'm simply too busy and I can't do all of those behaviors every day to nurture these leads. I'll tell you, just yesterday, where this is kind of a funny thing that happens randomly every few months. We have about 44,000 realtors in the Chicagoland area. And I don't know how many, I think I looked at once, and I think there's about 500 real estate firms, somewhere in that neighborhood. So once every couple of months, randomly, one of the associations says, here's a list of everyone that just passed the class to become a realtor. And we don't know when it's coming, but when it comes, it's usually, I don't know, maybe 100 names. We got it yesterday morning, and it was 67 names. And I I immediately canceled all my plans, because this is a speed to lead scenario. Now, this is a little different than a home buyer or seller, which we know takes a possibly a long time to get to that closing table. But for people that are choosing to be a realtor and have passed their class, they need to join a firm immediately, or hopefully pretty soon. So yeah. We scheduled 31 leads out of the 31 appointments out of the 67 people who raised their hand and said, I'd like to talk to some firms about which one I want to join. Now, it's not because we have a magical script, although we do have a good script, and it's a lot of, hey, thanks, and oh, congratulations, and all this stuff. But mostly we were the first people to call. So I'm just going back to the speed to lead thing. And the reason I wasn't able to make 67 dials within the first 40 minutes, I have 5 cold callers, although we don't call them cold callers, but people who dial for me and were able to call. So if you don't have a system like that, as Shayne says, generating leads is really not that challenging. There's proven systems. These guys will teach you how to do it, but you also need to have the ability to make those initial connections quickly, because maybe that same consumer is filling out another form and jumping into some other agents, lead inbox or CRM. So having a system in place. If I didn't have that system, I probably myself would have only been able to schedule maybe 5 to 7 appointments. So having systems, and then, by the way, we sent them a text message. Well, first thing we did is we sent them an email. Then we called them 2 minutes later. Then we sent a text message to everyone who we didn't get on the phone. And then we called them again today. This is all very similar to what you guys are teaching, but I would not want to have to rebuild this entire sort of process from scratch. I'd rather leverage you guys who know exactly how to do this. You have the data, you have the clients, and just say, show me the process. And then, you guys step in at certain points, and then I just follow it along the way. It's taken me 11 years to build my process. I would not, if I was a producing agent, I would say, please guys, you take care of a lot of this for me. So let's talk more about the Academy. So what actually do people get when they join?
Shayne?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the Academy is the Academy originally was built for marketing agencies, so all those people that message you and send you cold emails, all those guys, and many of them have been part of the Academy. Not that we teach them how to spam all the real estate agents out there, but there is some acquisition scenarios on how to work with real estate agents. The goal was always, though, how to properly work with real estate agents, because one of the things that I saw was that there were a lot of marketers out there just didn't know anything about the real estate industry. And so part of the Academy was to teach you a little bit more about the industry, how to work with real estate agents, making sure you're setting the right expectations, making sure that, like, you're not telling your real estate agents that you're going to generate leads and they're going to convert something in 2 weeks. Like, that's not what we want. And so for a long time, that's what marketers used to tell the real estate agents. Now, what we started noticing is that more and more real estate agents started joining the Academy because they wanted to figure out how to, generate their own leads, how to build Facebook ads, how to work with the CRMs, what the follow-up looked like. And then we also had a lot of real estate agents jump in that wanted to leverage referrals. And so we have a lot of real estate agents that are doing, that are building more teams, or they're attracting more agents, and then they're looking for ways to generate leads, build CRM systems out, distribute those leads to those agents, and so on. So inside of the Academy, we have everything from how to work with Facebook, how to generate leads obviously in Facebook, leveraging different types of strategies. So we have all the sort of generic strategies, so like listing campaigns, homes list, and things like that. But then we dive into some seller lead campaigns. We also dive into things like new construction, condo sales, pre-sales, things like that. I do a lot of that. It's been one of my specialties for the past 2 years, has been all new construction. And so we teach a lot of that. And then, of course, all of the follow-ups. So, we provide all the resources. So email drip campaigns, text drip campaigns. We have a whole program around how to follow up with your leads. So all the scripts that we use, we have live calls on there from our ISA teams that have been recorded. And so you get all of that as part of the Academy. Of course, you get, there are dozens and dozens of different ad campaigns that we share. So you can just click a button, import those into your ads manager, modify it, and so on. And then, of course, there's our private group where you can get all the support from us, other real estate agents that are doing this, and of course, agency owners that are inside of those groups.
Well, I will tell you, thank you for all of that. And I will tell you, as somebody who recruits realtors and has been running Facebook ads myself to recruit realtors in the Chicago area for years and years, I do not have a good system in place. I simply don't. And this is the year that I am going to get better at recruiting realtors through Facebook advertising, which in our market, virtually nobody does, which is very interesting. And again, this is public information, and we have a lot of Chicago listeners, so there's other people that can do this too. But this is the year that the agent should really be focused. We are still in pandemic mode. People are still operating virtually. Most of their life is virtual right now, right? So this is still an opportunity to really get that skill set in place, or to just start doing the ad spend, start learning about it. And the Academy, of course, is the place that we recommend that you learn about paid advertising for Facebook and other social media platforms. And really, you don't want to try to reinvent the wheel here. It can be ultra complicated to understand how to even use Facebook's ad systems. It doesn't look complicated, but there's all sorts of little tips and tweaks that these guys have already figured out that we recommend. So for everyone who is listening, please. And by the way, they do a free webinar where you can learn more about exactly what they offer, but you have to go to their website to sign up for it. So everyone right now, if you're driving, pull over. If you're not driving, write this down or go visit. The website is go.rio.io. remcmgroup.com. Once again, go.remcmgroup.com. Sign up for their free webinar, learn more about what they offer. And then if you like what you see, definitely sign up. These guys are the real deal. We almost never promote products on this website, or services rather. In this case, this is a service we're 100% behind. I'm going to be employing some of the tactics and strategies they use in my own business for recruiting real estate agents. And of course, you can do the same for consumers, buyers, and sellers, investors, renters. This is a huge untapped market. And again, here's how you know how available this is. Think about all those emails you get from people saying, I can do this for you. You should really hire some experts that not just a generic Gmail account that you get in your spam folder. These guys are legit and can do it for you and really save you so much headache and just a trial and error. So check out go.remcmgroup.com and sign up for their webinar and let us know how it works for you as well. And we'd love to have you guys back on as well once our audience starts participating with your systems, so we can learn even further what they can do to maximize those conversions. Shayne and Matt, thank you so much for being on our show. Really, really appreciate it. Again, everyone go to go.remcmgroup.com. And then before everyone goes, please continue to support our show. The easiest way to do that, tell a friend. Think of one other agent that could benefit, who needs more leads and could benefit from hearing from Shayne and Matt. Send them a link to this episode. Easiest way to do that, go to our website, keepingitrealpod.com, or just have them pull up a podcast app and search for Keeping It Real. It should show right up, and send them a link to this episode. And also follow us on Facebook. We're talking about Facebook all this episode. Go to facebook.com/Keeping It Real Pod. Every day we find an article written online specifically to help agents grow their business. We post a link to it. We also post all of our interviews there, and that's basically it. So lots of great information. Facebook.com/Keeping It Real Pod. Shayne and Matt, thank you so much. You guys were fantastic. Loved having you on the show, and thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having us. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, we'll see everyone on the next episode.